I wanted to take a moment today to reflect back on a time period in gaming that, was kind of spurred on by a recent announcement from Microsoft that they would be shutting down the Xbox 360 store. But this time period, this generation, really set us up for where we are currently when it comes to the digital age of gaming. And I think it's something that is going to influence gaming going forward, especially into the next generation for really all three of these major platform holders, and we're going to go over that here today. So if you guys enjoy this video, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, and we're going to start today with this video sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by Factor. With just a few weeks left for summer, it's more important now to save time inside so you can spend more time outside enjoying the weather. Factor makes it easy by letting you skip the extra trip to the grocery store with fresh, never frozen meals delivered straight to your door. Simply pick from more than 34 weekly flavor-packed dietitian-approved meals, along with over 45 add-ons, including breakfast options like apple cinnamon pancakes, bacon cheddar bites, or potato, bacon, and egg breakfast skillets. There are also calorie-conscious options that offer 550 calories or less per meal. My favorite part, though, has to be that each meal comes together in about 2 minutes and cleanup is a breeze, so I can get on with my day without having to sacrifice my nutritional goals. This August, get Factor and enjoy eating well without the hassle. Head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code SpawnWave50 to get 50% off your first Factor box. That's factor75.com or click the link below and use code SpawnWave50 to get 50% off your first Factor box. Thanks again to Factor for sponsoring today's video. Okay, so we all know the Xbox 360, of course, launched back in 2005, and most remember it for maybe a certain game that you really enjoyed playing on there, and you should. First and foremost, it's a game console, but the biggest thing that Microsoft introduced with that generation from the start was a way to have a digital marketplace for you to go and, at that time, buy add-ons, pictures, themes, and you can insert horse armor here, that DLC, right? Before that, though, they did have Xbox Live Arcade, and it was an original disc that you would get for your original Xbox. You'd pop it in and it would give you access to a server with a very basic looking menu, and you could buy certain games. There's like Metal Slug, Gauntlet, Zuma. There's a few others in there, and it came with like a Miss Pac-Man game on the disc, and that was, I think, a year before the Xbox 360 came out, so it allowed them to kind of build up their strategy when it came to that digital marketplace, which the big innovation for the 360 on that front was the idea of it just being built in natively to the OS. You don't need a disc or anything to pop in to go to it, but the interesting thing is, and something that people don't remember as much, it wasn't until like 2009 or so that full games went on sale in that marketplace. Up until then, it was either smaller, like Xbox Live Arcade games, or just DLC for games you've already purchased on disc. And when we got to 2009 and we started seeing full games appear in the store, it was a pretty big deal. Sony had also been working on things on their side, and it was kind of rough going early on for the PS3 because for a while, it wasn't a native application at all. It was like a website you would go to. It was very slow and clunky, but Sony spent the entire generation also building up their own storefront, and it was something that they had continued to innovate on, obviously, to build up to the launch of the PlayStation 4, and the PS3 saw a bunch of different store revisions throughout that entire time span. Now, on Microsoft's side, as they worked to build out this entire marketplace, they were obviously themselves building towards the Xbox One, but by 2009, 2010, you were seeing games launch digitally alongside of its retail counterpart. But what this really shows is the idea, the concept even, of having your retail games be purchased through a digital storefront is not that old. I mean, really, we're talking 14 or 15 years, maybe. And now we're seeing many of these digital storefronts get shut down. And in a lot of cases, you are having many games left behind. In terms of the Xbox 360, people have counted, it's like 200, 230 or so. But obviously, if you look around, some of these games are multi-platform and currently available on other systems. But still, just within that Xbox ecosystem, There's over 200 games that are just kind of being snapped out of existence when the Xbox 360 store does get shut down. This will be happening next year, July 2024. But I will admit, I did get pretty nostalgic when I saw it mentioned that the 360's access to the online store was going to be cut off at that point after 18 years. A lot of fond memories from that generation. And recently I did a video where I went online with the Xbox 360, and I was able to find some people playing different games. But the big thing was when I went through the store, which you can check that video out if you just want to see what the Xbox 360 store looks like right now, a year before they shut the thing down. It was pretty obvious that Microsoft wasn't even doing basic housekeeping on the store. It kind of felt like that Kmart down the street that's still around for some reason, but it looks like it's hanging on by a thread. Nintendo has also worked to shut down a bunch of their legacy stores. The Wii, Wii U, DSi, 3DS. I mean, they are shutting everything down just about up until the Switch. And the Wii U, again, not that old of a system. I know we're talking about just the digital storefronts, but I mean, what, a system that was, at the time when they shut it down, 11 years old or something. And we know that Sony has already tried to shut down a couple of their own storefronts. They were unsuccessful because of some of the backlash online. The PS3 and the Vita specifically are still up, although adding funds and stuff is a little trickier than it used to be. The PSP, that is like shut down completely. So at this point, I think Sony, especially with what we're seeing here from Microsoft's side, shutting down the 360, they'll probably revisit that. And I'm thinking that maybe by next year, we'll have heard that the PS3 and the Vita are indeed on their way out, with at least some date given for its end of life in terms of that storefront, which I guess a quick tip, I would start collecting PS3 games physically if you can, sooner rather than later, because, well, based on the backwards compatibility from the PS3 to the PS4, which is none, those physical games, those are going to go up in value pretty quickly. And what's interesting is that entire sort of generation was kind of left up to flip of a coin for some of these backwards compatibility options. For a while, Microsoft was at least looking to build out backwards compatibility all the way back to the original Xbox. They basically stopped doing that, although who knows, maybe they'll go back now that Activision Blizzard is just about wrapped up with that acquisition, and I'm sure they have some stuff in that back catalog they wouldn't mind bringing up to the Xbox Series systems. But you look at the PS3, it's only be backwards compatible through streaming, which isn't exactly exciting to anyone out there right now. And on Nintendo's side, well, backwards compatibility just wasn't an option for them, apparently, with the Wii U, even though I am noticing a lot of Virtual Console games on the Switch, but you got to subscribe to a service. You can't buy them a la carte, even if you had already purchased those same games. So I guess those couldn't follow through for whatever reason. But I guess this would be the part with good news, where I think now that basically a lot of those legacy storefronts are just about gone at this point, and we just watched really a smooth transition for the most part from the PS4 to the PS5 and the Xbox One to the Xbox Series, we may be at the point where we shouldn't expect mass amounts of games to just go away because a storefront has to be shut down. So when the PS4's time comes and it's like, well, no one's really on the PS4 anymore, we're going to go ahead and flip the switch and you can't access the store anymore, go to your PS7 instead, then it won't be a big deal because all those games should just work through backwards compatibility, as, of course, they're all on x86 and everything now, and that's a big thing that was pointed out. The PS3 with its cell processor, don't have to worry about that anymore. And this, of course, would put pressure on Nintendo. Looking around, okay, everybody seems to like that their digital libraries are going forward. We can't pull the same thing that we did with the Wii, the Wii U, the DSi, the 3DS, the virtual. You get the idea there. Yeah, in this instance, looking at the landscape, it would be very, very weird if Nintendo said, nah, clean break, it's not backwards compatible. Now, I do want to admit that the idea that these three major platform holders, Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft, continuing the trend of backwards compatibility and keeping your digital library with smooth transitions from generation to generation is predicated on the idea that it falls in line with their business plan, as, of course, they could certainly do something weird, have a clean break from one of these generations, and we're back in this situation all over again. It just seems like a big focus has been placed on digital ownership and these libraries continuing to follow us along, especially with this push now to where we are seeing more and more happen when it comes to really an all-digital future where there are no more physical games to lean on. So yes, it is the end of an era, and as I mentioned, I think Sony is going to follow up with their own announcement around the PS3. But the era that we're leaving behind is one that was more convoluted when it came to having these games work going forward, and I feel like now, especially with what we see from Sony and Microsoft, this hopefully shouldn't be a thing, but who knows? I've been surprised before, and we've seen third-party companies certainly take advantage of the lack of backwards compatibility from some games with some of these more expensive remasters or ports, or what are they, reworks, I guess is what they call them now. And Nintendo seems to be enjoying their time with the Virtua Console games being added onto their subscription service. So who knows? Maybe corporate greed will win out in the end, but I'm crossing my fingers saying, you know what, that should be it when it comes to store closures and losing hundreds of games at the snap of a finger, but I guess we'll see. Let me know what you guys think about this one down below, with it being really an end of an era when it comes to the system that really got the ball rolling when it came to these online digital marketplaces with the Xbox 360. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.